On Wednesday afternoon, the 28th of May 2025, the unthinkable became reality in the Swiss Alps. The village of Blatten, home to 300 residents in Switzerland's Valais canton, was buried under a catastrophic glacier collapse that sent tons of ice, mud, and debris cascading into the valley below. This is the story of a natural disaster that highlights the growing risks facing Alpine communities as climate change accelerates glacier melt and destabilizes mountain slopes across Switzerland. Today, we'll examine what happened in Blatten, the science behind these increasingly frequent events, and what this means for mountain communities throughout the Alps. I'm reporting on a crisis that experts warn is just the beginning of a new reality for Switzerland's mountain villages, where ancient glaciers that have stood for millennia are now becoming deadly threats to the communities below. The Birch Glacier above Blatten had been showing signs of instability for weeks before the collapse. Monitoring systems detected accelerating geological movement, with the mountainside sinking several meters and large cracks forming across the terrain. Rockfalls became increasingly frequent, and ground movement was being recorded daily. On 19th May, 9 days before the collapse, Swiss authorities took the precautionary step of evacuating all 300 residents of Blatten. This decision, based on warnings from geologists about the glacier's deteriorating condition, likely prevented a catastrophic loss of life. When the Birch Glacier finally gave way on Wednesday afternoon, it unleashed an avalanche of ice and debris that buried significant portions of the village. Many homes were completely destroyed under the weight of the collapse. Despite the evacuation, one person remains unaccounted for in the aftermath. Blatten's mayor, Matthias Bellwald, described the event as witnessing the unimaginable become reality. However, he remained resolute about the village's future, stating that while they had lost their physical community, the spirit of Blatten endured. The Swiss government has pledged support to ensure residents can remain in the area, though whether they can return to the village itself remains uncertain. The extent of the destruction means that rebuilding Blatten in its original location may not be possible. To understand what happened at Blatten, we need to examine the complex relationship between climate change and mountain stability in the Swiss Alps. The region is experiencing rapid warming, with average temperatures rising by nearly 3 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels. This warming is having profound effects on two critical components of mountain stability: glaciers and permafrost. As these ice formations melt, slopes that have been stable for centuries become increasingly susceptible to movement and collapse. Glaciers act as natural buttresses, holding mountain slopes in place. When they retreat or collapse, the structural support they provide disappears, often suddenly and catastrophically. Permafrost, permanently frozen ground, serves a similar stabilizing function. As it thaws due to rising temperatures, the glue that holds loose rock and soil together weakens. However, researchers face significant challenges in predicting exactly when and where these events will occur. While there's a clear link between climate change and smaller rockfalls, the connection to larger landslides and glacier collapses is less certain due to the complex interplay of local geology, topography, and long-term weathering processes. Swiss authorities use advanced monitoring techniques, including satellite imagery and ground sensors, to detect potential hazards. But the sheer scale of the Alps makes comprehensive monitoring of every potentially unstable slope impossible, leaving many mountain communities living with ongoing uncertainty. The Blatten disaster is not an isolated incident. Switzerland has seen a troubling pattern of mountain instability in recent years that underscores the growing risks faced by Alpine communities. The village of Brienz in eastern Switzerland was evacuated 2 years ago due to an unstable mountainside. Residents have only been allowed brief visits since then, living in limbo as authorities monitor the ongoing threat above their homes. In 2017, a massive landslide near the village of Bondo resulted in 8 fatalities and significant property damage, serving as a deadly reminder of how quickly these events can unfold. Switzerland recorded 1,100 forced displacements due to natural disasters in 2024 alone, a stark increase that reflects the growing impact of climate change on Alpine communities. While most residents can return home quickly after these events, the psychological and economic toll of repeated evacuations is significant. Rafael Mayoraz, head of the Regional Natural Hazards Office, has warned that further evacuations in neighbouring areas might be necessary, underscoring the ongoing threat to other mountain communities throughout the region. The frequency of intense precipitation events, which can trigger debris flows and destabilise slopes, has also increased. However, studies show mixed results regarding overall trends, highlighting the complexity of mountain systems and the difficulty in making broad predictions about where the next disaster might strike. Climate scientists predict that without significant action to limit global temperature increases, Switzerland could lose all its glaciers within a century. This would not only transform the iconic Alpine landscape, but also pose serious ongoing risks to mountain communities and infrastructure. For the ski industry, which is deeply integrated into these mountain environments, the implications are profound. Many resorts are now reassessing their long-term viability and exploring ways to adapt to changing conditions. Some are investing heavily in artificial snowmaking technology, while others are diversifying their offerings to include year-round activities. However, the loss of glaciers could fundamentally alter the ski industry in the Alps, potentially shortening seasons and limiting skiable terrain in the coming decades. The natural beauty and stability that have made the Swiss Alps a global destination are under threat. Mountain communities face difficult decisions about their future. Protective measures such as concrete walls and embankments can mitigate some risks in known hazard areas. But for large-scale events like the Blatten collapse, intervention becomes technically and financially challenging. As climate change continues to affect the Alps, communities may need to adapt to living with increased risk or consider the painful option of relocating from the most vulnerable areas entirely. The destruction of Blatten serves as a stark reminder that climate change is not a distant threat. It's reshaping mountain environments and threatening communities today. While the evacuation order likely saved lives, the loss of homes, livelihoods, and a way of life represents a profound tragedy for the residents of this small Alpine village. As we've seen, this is part of a growing pattern across the Swiss Alps. The question is no longer whether more communities will face similar threats, but when and where the next catastrophic event will occur. The situation in Blatten and similar communities throughout the Alps demands our attention, not just as observers of a changing climate, but as witnesses to the human cost of environmental transformation. These are not just statistics or scientific data points. They are real communities facing an uncertain future in a rapidly changing world.